On this episode of The Hunt for Amazing Treasures, the legendary Maltese Falcon movie prop turns into real-life treasure.
This could be the Maltese Falcon, but figured the odds would probably be 1 in 100 million.
Then find out why the City of Angels was called the City of Fallen Angels when archaeologists unearth a red light district from the past.
It's rather like being on a big treasure hunt and finding these gems and jewels under every rock.
The Hunt for Amazing Treasures. Narrated by Mark Hamill.
Come closer. I want to talk to you. I'm going to tell you an astounding story. The story of the Maltese Falcon. 600 years the Falcon has carried the mystery of a fabulous wealth under its grotesque wings. I could tell you 1,000 tales of the men and women who have hunted this evil bird. But every story has the same ending. Murder.
Well, this story isn't about murder, but it is about the passionate pursuit of the legendary Maltese Falcon. The movie prop, that is. The Maltese Falcon is one of the great detective movies of all time. Taken from Dashiell Hammett's classic novel, it was John Huston's directorial debut, and Humphrey Bogart's portrayal of Gumshoe Sam Spade created a screen legend. In the movie, everyone is looking for a statue of a golden falcon encrusted with jewels. It turns out to be a fake made of lead. The falcon prop disappeared from Warner Brothers after the movie was made. As could only happen in Hollywood, it replaced the fabled bird as a much sought-after treasure. And just like the movie, many have tried to pass off fake falcons as the real thing. Until Dr. Gary Milan, that is. His authentic blackbird, as it's affectionately known, is on loan to a museum back at its birthplace, Warner Brothers Studio in Burbank, California. Dr. Milan's movie treasures from his other favorite film, Casablanca, can also be seen at the museum, including Ingrid Bergman's passport and the piano from Rick's Cafe. In fact, it was his sale of the piano from the Paris flashback scene that led him to the legendary bird.
The Maltese Falcon was a serendipitous find, a wonderful treasure that when I purchased it, I wasn't even positive was the Maltese Falcon. For years I'd collected, since I was 8, all kinds of things, Revolutionary War articles, manuscripts, documents, movie memorabilia, and my mother thought I was a little crazy. I was fortunate enough to get the piano and sort of became famous or infamous for being a Casablanca collector. Someone called me and said, "I have the Maltese Falcon, would you like it?" My response was, "Let's see, I've seen 250 bad Maltese Falcons. Why do you think you have it?" He said, "Well, I think it's right. It's lead and it's very heavy." So I went to see it, and there lying in a box was the Maltese Falcon.
Instinct told him to buy it, but how could he be sure it was the real McCoy? Dr. Milan enlisted the aid of rare document dealer and movie memorabilia expert Charles Sachs.
The process, of course, of authenticating it was a matter of going through the literature at Warner Brothers, going through the archive, and finding the inter-office communications that might mention the making of the bird itself or the creation of the prop. And we found a few things that gave us a trail to follow.
One way to verify Dr. Milan's falcon was by its weight, almost 50 pounds.
Huston was a stickler for accuracy, and he called for a lead bird of significant weight, just as Dashiell Hammett describes the bird in the novel, as being very heavy. You can see Bogart actually grimace and start down the stairs very gingerly and sort of tuck the bird to his chest and lean back slightly, and you know that he's carrying something very heavy. One of the office communications said was that during one of the rehearsals, the Falcon, which weighs 47 pounds because it's made of lead, was dropped and almost broke Humphrey Bogart's toe.
We took photographs off of the actual film, and there's a bent tail feather on one side of the bird that compares exactly, along with other little notches, to the photographs, and we knew that we had the real Maltese falcon, the one seen on the film. We even know that one of the prop men that was involved has been interviewed by the Warner Brothers Museum, and they said there were two of the Maltese falcons. They used to use them as lead weights, like barbells, when they were doing the film. So we know there's only two authentic Maltese falcons.
Two falcons? For years, Dr. Milan's falcon was the only one known to exist. Then a second falcon surfaced to be auctioned off at Christie's in New York City.
One day here at Christie's, I received a phone call from Mrs. William Conrad, the widow of the actor William Conrad. And she said that she had had some things of her husband's which she might like us to look at and appraise and perhaps sell, scripts, some photographs, letters, etc. And almost as an afterthought, she said to me, "Oh, and we have this lead bird which has been sitting on the shelf in the television room for the last, 30 years, etc. Maybe you could take a look at that for me." And I knew that Mr. Conrad was a director on the Warner Brothers lot in the early 60s. So she described it to me, and I thought to myself, this could be the Maltese Falcon, but figured the odds would probably be 1 in 100 million. The piece was sent to me in New York, and when the crate was opened, I actually went to the shipping department and stood there when they pulled the Falcon out. And they took all the bubble wrap and the shredded paper and et cetera around it. And when I looked at it, I realized that, in fact, it was the genuine Maltese Falcon.
Why the late Jack Warner had given it to his friend Conrad may never be known, but there was no doubt it was genuine.
It was the correct prop number stamped underneath the bird. It had the slashes in the shoulder, in the front of the head. It was the perfect bronze color.
The scratch marks, for example, on the breast of the bird, because as you recall, Sidney Greenstreet sort of scratches at the bird in his frenzy to peel the crust away and get to the underneath part. And so, of course, on the prop there are similar scratch marks.
News of the impending sale of this legendary icon spread like wildfire, attracting potential buyers from around the world, and all but ensuring that it would go for more than the pre-sale estimate of $30,000 to $50,000.
We finally had to call people back and say, if you're not prepared to go over 6 figures, we can't even have you on the telephone. The podium was active, the room was packed. I was not on the phone, I was standing there watching, and the bidding started, $30,000. Kept going, kept going, kept going. The room, this person was bidding to $250, and I'm standing there saying, okay, well, there goes my idea of $2 to $225.
At $340,000.
And all of a sudden, I noticed a man standing to my left in the back of the auction room, sort of behind a pole, with a hat and glasses and a newspaper covering his face, and he has a paddle in his hand.
$360,000. Any more? Selling them at $360,000.
Including commission, the total price came to $398,500.
As soon as the hammer went down, he dropped his paddle on the floor and turned and walked out of the room. And all of my associates, and most importantly the credit manager, turned around and looked at me and said, and the PR person, "Who is that?" I said, "I have no idea."
The mystery buyer was determined to remain mysterious, for as prominently as he showcases his jewels, Ronald Winston of the famed Harry Winston Jewelers refuses the public eye and the camera lens. At the press conference following the sale, a Humphrey Bogart lookalike showed off Winston's new treasure in his stead.
Well, I've always been a great fan of Humphrey Bogart, and I've always loved the movie because it deals with the intrigue and romance and search of something precious. And in fact, that's what I do every day in my daily life, is to try and find precious things, usually stones.
A year after paying almost $400,000 for the Falcon, Winston stated he sold the bird for a substantial profit. He refused to confirm or deny the price tag, nor disclose the buyer's name. The rumors quickly flew.
Several months ago, I heard that it had been sold for $1 million in Europe.
Once more, the bird was cloaked in mystery, and the treasure quotient heightened when Winston announced plans to create his own version of the mythical Falcon. In his jewelry workshop high above Fifth Avenue, the Harry Winston Falcon, made from a mold of the original bird, gets its finishing touches. Clothed in 4.5 pounds of 18-karat gold, it sees the world through Burmese ruby eyes.
I wanted to bring the legend alive and finish the story that was never finished in the movie.
The bird has an almost 43-karat diamond and a selling price of $8.5 million. But it is still not the stuff dreams are made of, as Sam Spade said. In Dr. Milan's eyes, that makes his lead bird worth much more.
Would I ever consider selling the Maltese Falcon? No, it probably is worth what it is, $1 million, but what would I do with the money? I'd go out and buy something else anyway, and I couldn't part with it. It's sort of a part of me.
Perhaps to own the Falcon is to own your dreams. To live the legend of Bogey, to fall for a woman like Mary Astor, to do battle with the Fat Man, and to search for fabled riches.
I think in this case, life has definitely imitated art, because if you know the cast of characters, or the collectors, let's just say, who have been chasing this around the globe, it very much mirrors the film. Bogart is this smooth, stealth, sort of master manipulator, and I think a lot of men in this role really identified with him.
Dr. Milan often goes to the museum to visit his Falcon.
I come by and visit him and talk to him. You know, he does talk. And he will probably say, I am the stuff that dreams are made of.
All these props are the stuff that dreams are made of. Films are the stories of the stuff that dreams are made of, and dreams play an important part of our life.
And so, as long as men covet, desire, and dream, they will also seek out elusive treasures like the Maltese Falcon.
Next, LA's turn-of-the-century red light district, Unearthed.
It was the gay 90s, and there was no more freewheeling spirit than in Los Angeles. All kinds of people flocked to the bustling frontier town, and some even called the City of Angels the City of Fallen Angels. Today, Los Angeles faces another turn of the century. And while it makes way for the future, it's discovering some unexpected treasures of the past. As the Metropolitan Water District prepares to construct an office building on what was once a parking lot near Union Station, a state law requires that archaeologists first investigate the area to determine the environmental impact. Dr. Julia Costello, co-director of the excavation, is a treasure hunter. But she's not seeking the gold and other valuables you might expect.
Medicinal bottles, ceramics, jars, probably a Florida water.
She's uncovered an unknown, and some may say shocking, story of Los Angeles. It's buried treasure, but of a different sort.
It's not heavy enough. All artifacts are rubbish from the past, whether they're 4,000 years old or 100 years old. What people throw out is what archaeologists excavate and treasure and agonize over, and that's the stories of the past. And as we uncover that historic ground surface, what appears are the outlines of privies that were in the backyard of these houses that faced Aliso Street. The privies are the outhouses. These are the pre-plumbing facilities in the backyards. It is only when the privy is abandoned, plumbing is put into the house, and it becomes an empty hole in the backyard for trash.
When archaeologists dig into the past, it's never certain what they'll find.
Hagen's Magnolia Balm. So we were expecting kind of a blue-collar working neighborhood, and we would get refuse that would reflect that. And in our first set of privies, we started coming up with the goblets and the etched glass and the expensive porcelains, and going, wait a minute, this isn't a blue-collar neighborhood, this is expensive table settings. And then our historians went back to work and realized we weren't in a little residential neighborhood. At that time period, we were in a red light district, and we were in very fancy parlor houses where the men were being entertained in a fashion way beyond that neighborhood. Actually, we coined a phrase out there, the Johns for the Johns, which we thought described it.
Once excavated, the bounty will be taken to the Anthro Study Center, where it will be cleaned, cataloged, and analyzed. Julia Costello travels regularly to Sonoma State University, just north of San Francisco, where the meticulous work is taking place. She and co-director Dr. Adrian Pretzelis meet to review their treasures. With more than 50,000 pieces to be examined, their work will continue over the next year or two.
This is what you've heard about from the field crew, and I know everyone's told you, but now you're going to get a chance to see it for the first time.
I'm looking forward to it. What is it? Wow. Whoa. Boy, a little gold character here.
We did take it to a jeweler yesterday, though, and it's 22 karat.
This is so unusual. We very rarely find precious metals like this kind of thing.
While the gold is beautiful, it is the everyday items that are the most intriguing.
I always liked finding the toothpaste jar lids. In the 19th century, most people didn't actually brush their teeth too much. Isn't it a shocking thought, isn't it?
It's a shocking thought.
Yeah, and in fact, hotels and public places often had common toothbrushes where people could just sort of use the toothbrush that was sitting there by the washstand. It's a pretty gross concept. Yeah.
Some of the other things they laid out here that are so lovely.
Julie and Adrian begin to put together the pieces of LA's past.
Fine.
Lovely.
It's really lovely.
Yeah, it is.
Little pressed glass candy dishes, what are common. Yeah, go.
Okay, all right.
Where the ordinary person might see only bits of glass and pottery, archaeologists can conjure up a vision of crystal decanters, fine china dishes, and a whole way of life.
They were setting the table with all of these exotic things from different parts of the world. German porcelains, hand-painted globes from Europe, bitters bottles, wine bottles from France. If we're recreating little scenes here, we have pipe smoking, wine drinking, whiskey drinking, and a platter of something brought out from the main house. Sure. But this is a very cosmopolitan crowd.
Each broken piece helps tell the story of a business where women worked hard to entertain their customers in lavish style. Perhaps this pitcher was used to fill their glasses during lively dinners. Possibly this dish decorated the parlor where they relaxed after work. And in the wee hours of the morning, it might have been this face cream that the ladies of the evening used as they prepared to retire.
These are broken artifacts. If you took them to the flea market, you wouldn't get a penny for them if you tried to sell them. But as items that represent the nation's past, they are treasures, they're invaluable.
During the district's heyday, hundreds of young women came from San Francisco and other parts of the country to these brothels, euphemistically labeled female boarding.
The story of prostitution, of course, is complicated. At this time in the late 19th century, there were very few job opportunities for women at all. They could be a school teacher and they could do some nursing, but otherwise their options were very limited. So in some ways, prostitution was the only option that many of them had, and they were fallen women and called women of ill fame, but often they were taking the only route that they could to live independently. If not condoned, at least it was seen as a necessary part of society. And oftentimes they thought the presence of a red light district diffused males who might otherwise go out and get into trouble. They actually published a sporting guide in 1897 in which the women advertised and gave descriptions of the attributes of their house and the names of the women and the reasons why you would have a better time there than somewhere else. And it was passed out to the newcomers that came to town to get them to frequent the neighborhood and try out their wares.
But the elegant lifestyle couldn't cover up the district's seamy underside, where a woman was more often considered a piece of merchandise.
The crib district in Los Angeles was quite famous. They were a series of 10, 20, 40 little rooms all in a row with a door, window. The women would sit in the windows and the men would walk by and they would chat with them and entice them in, and they would go in and do business and be back on the street again.
For most women in that profession, their bid for independence came with a heavy price.
There's a very dark side, of course, to the prostitution. They're hanging out in a part of town and with colleagues who are in illegal business ventures of all kinds, and so there's lots of alcohol, drug abuse.
There's a lot of medical artifacts, lots and lots of drugs. Interestingly enough, we're looking at both the public facade of the place, which has a really fancy parlor, but at the back of that, there are people who are very concerned about their health. Maybe they have medical problems. I would imagine that there was probably a fair amount of disease in this particular institution.
In 1909, a reform movement wiped out the cribs and cleared out the bordellos. Of course, that way of life didn't really disappear. It just went underground. So too did the only evidence of that wild time. 30 feet underground to be precise, as the privies were covered with landfill in order to build the Union Station parking lot. Sealed in the earth, these pieces of the past lay waiting to tell a story of a time gone by.
If you look at this kind of stuff, this tells us about how modern society was created, how we became what we are today. And it's on the basis of our own perceptions of how the world used to be, is how we create it today.
Because we don't have written documents on this oldest of industries that was going on in Los Angeles, and we don't have many first-hand accounts of the day, then if we're going to fill in that piece of the past, we need to rely on the treasures from underground. But you never know when you scrape back the earth what's going to appear out of there, what new story, what different twist. It's rather like being on a big treasure hunt and finding these gems and jewels under every rock.
We'll be right back with the hunt for amazing treasure.